giving 10,000 guns to the Indians to then attack their own settlers, to take the settlers' guns. I mean, you read the Declaration of Independence, everything they list, the government's doing today. Go read it. But then more. I mean, was Hitler illegitimate? You know, they had a big debate in Philadelphia a month ago, and the BBC headline was, is the Declaration of Independence illegal? And they actually had newspapers in the U.S. come out and say, no, and agree it's illegal, as the BBC said, because you're not allowed to tell a sovereign government it's ever wrong. Really, then Stalin, Mao, Hitler, they were all good. Caligula was good. Every monster's been good. No, we all know that's not the case. And so, yes, you are illegitimate. The government has given $27+ trillion of our tax money to mega banks that sold fraudulent derivatives. Our country is run by these banks. Europe is publicly run by them now. It's illegitimate. And so the ADL's running around everywhere teaching the police that we're terrorists because we're telling people this and that our words are terrorism. Okay, I'm going to stop right there, and I apologize to Max having him hold 8 minutes. I'm going to go to him now. I just had to get to that. Coming up after Max leaves us, 20... What is it? There's something like 20 senators that are concerned now, and before that it was only 7 that voted against it. There's a total of 40 members of Congress are protesting indefinite detention bill, and it's in conference right now. The House is set to pass it tomorrow. It's now admitted that Obama had it added in there while claiming he was against it. I mean, that's this kind of stuff Rick Perry does. So all of that's going on. We just have incredible information coming up, but I wanted to get Max Keiser up to get his perspective on this. Then we've got some other bombshell gun control, gun grabbing news going on. But before we do that, I just want to preface here and then go to Max and play the video clip. This is out of the Financial Times of London. I saw it last night at Zero Hedge. We had it up at Infowars.com. CME chief alleges Corzine aware of transfers. Now, they had prepared at the big commodities exchange group, the old mercantile out of Chicago. They had prepared, to put this in layman's terms, and then we'll get Max Keiser's expert take on it, a prepared statement for the head of the CME group, who had said that everything that was going on in the commodities was insured on record. And now they're talking about 1.2 to 3 billion missing. First it was 600 million, then 900 million. And that's back in USA Today. They're saying it's at least 1.2 billion or more today. Corzine's been to 2 different committees. He's got one more. He gets up there and says, I know nothing as the CEO. I don't know where the money went, and I never said take it, and no one knows where it went, as if the government doesn't know where the transfers went. It's reportedly J.P. Morgan. That came out. But it's just like everybody plays dumb. And he says, I know nothing like Sergeant Schultz in Hogan's Heroes, but it's people's money, farmers, ranchers, and others. You know, the terrorists the drones are training to take out. That's why they got GPS coordinates to all your front doors. I've talked to people in the Pentagon, and it's come out. It is to send missiles into your house. People a year ago were like, that's crazy. Now you're learning. Again, so the CME had its prepared text, and I have that up at Infowars.com. Here's the headline: presenting the 3 unscripted sentences that may have cost Corzine his freedom. And the head of the CME group is saying he was in on the meetings and that he was told Corzine was the one that ordered the money to be transferred out. I'm going to play the clip in a moment. It's all in lawyer speak. But this is a big deal. This is the big, fat CME group rat who was attacking Gerald Celente and others just 3 weeks ago and saying we're nuts. He is now, he's not going to go to prison for lying to Congress. Why should he? When it's Corzine, why should he lie for Corzine? So the rats, just like at the Justice Department on Fast and Furious, are turning on each other. Now, the question is, will they just say, well, he doesn't matter if he ordered it and has been caught lying as if we don't know he ordered it. Go ahead and let Corzine, the big White House advisor, get away with it. I give you Max Keiser until the bottom of the next hour, graciously joining us of MaxKeiser.com. American broadcaster, filmmaker, former equities broker. Keiser is the host of On the Edge, BBC, Press TV, RT. They invented the virtual trading system used by many stock markets around the world today. MaxKeiser.com. Max, this is a big deal, is it not? Do you agree this is the big giant rat in front of everyone leaving the sinking ship?
Alex, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Good to have you.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. Well, this is what I'm hearing, basically, over at MF Global, is that Corzine, of course, being somebody who doesn't really know how to run a brokerage business, he was speculating in his firm MF Global, and he rang up about $1.5 billion in losses. And it was going to come to the point where he'd have to call up his creditors, which in this case is J.P. Morgan, and tell them that he was going to go bankrupt, that he wouldn't make good on that collateral. At which point, Jamie Dimon told John Corzine, either take that money out of your customer accounts or we'll kill you. So he threatened to kill Corzine if he didn't take the money out of the customer accounts, and Corzine did exactly that. He took the money out of the customer accounts, and now the customers don't get their money.
By the way, Max, you don't make stuff up from the time that I've talked to you. Sometimes you joke around and stuff, but when you're serious, you don't really toot your horn a lot. I mean, you know George Soros, you know his son, high-powered people like Steve Forbes see you and walk over and recognize you. You worked at the highest levels of this. They all know you. You're friends with Alec Baldwin. You know them all from the New York scene. And so if you're saying that, I mean, this is breaking. You're saying you have sources that are saying that they told him, we're going to kill you. And that is how they operate. I mean, they run the wars. J.P. Morgan is the boss. And then, of course, below that is their mafia don, Goldman Sachs. And you're saying J.P. Morgan told him, Jamie Dimon told him, you do this or you're going to sleep with the fishes.
Right. Ask John Perkins, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. This is the way American banks do business around the world. Now they're doing it in America. Just like America flies drones around the world, now they're doing it in America. America tortures and kills people around the world. Now they do it in America.
So it's just like Madoff. It's just like Madoff. I mean, now it's been admitted, and federal courts are even having to admit it, that, wait a minute, he moved a bunch of money to people and warned people, and he was really just a front man, as you said a year and a half ago, for bigger interest. And the same thing you said years ago was, they're basically told, you take the fall or you're dead.
Right. Well, I mean, you mentioned Madoff. Let's talk about Madoff for a second. It's interesting that Madoff, Lehman Brothers, AIG, and MF Global, all of them run through the City of London, because only in the City of London is it possible to rehypothecate, that is to say, re-loan securities out, putting up no collateral whatsoever. They have a situation there which is infinite hypothecation. In America, you can only lend out 140% of customer accounts for loans.
So there's no fractional reserve banking in the City of London. It's to infinity.
That's absolutely correct in this context. And that's why AIG, Lehman Brothers, Madoff, and MF Global all go through the City of London, which is why when David Cameron recently had his kerfuffle in Brussels, where he said, I'm going to safeguard the City of London, and I'm not going to be part of your treaty revision. Well, what he's saying is that his masters, the people in the City of London, who are a part of this, the epicenter of the global financial terrorism network, are telling David Cameron that in no circumstances will they ever allow anyone to regulate them in any way. So Cameron dutifully ran back to London with his tail between his legs, doing the bidding of the financial terrorists in the City of London, which gave us, again, let me repeat, they gave us MF Global, AIG, Lehman, and Madoff, and they are the epicenter of this meltdown that's happening now. What's happening in Europe, as everyone can see, is the banks are melting down. No matter how much money let's say the European Central Bank makes available to try to smooth out the problems in these European banks, the hedge funds and the private equity managers can create 10 times that amount of credit default swaps used to crack that bond market, to get those yields high, to crush these countries because they want to buy all the assets for pennies on the dollar. We're seeing it in Greece. They're buying the assets for pennies on the dollar. We're seeing it in Ireland. They're giving away assets for pennies on the dollar. They want to do the same thing in Italy. They want to do the same thing in Spain and France. And they use these credit default swaps, again, going.
And that's the point of always raising taxes and regulations till all the small farms and businesses go bankrupt, is so that then you get to own those, and now they're sharecroppers, they're now renters in what they previously owned. And that's what's so scary, Max. For at least 15 years, quietly behind the scenes, the entire architecture is to wage war on rural communities in the U.S., and now they're admitting it. Rural affairs...
These interest rates on these European bonds, they keep going 6, 7%, 8%, which we hear is the unsustainable levels that are guaranteed for a deflationary implosion. Well, why do they keep going higher? It's because no matter what anyone does on the governments, the private equity and the hedge fund managers, which are bigger than any governments, use naked swaps and credit default swaps to crush the bond market, to get those yields high, to bankrupt these corporations. And they're able to do it through the loophole that is the City of London, which allows you to borrow an infinite amount of money with no...
Now, Max, stay there. Stay there. I understand you're giving us how the scam works, but I want to get into specifically, and the video clip's coming up in the audio, the magnitude of the head of the CME group, the big commodities umbrella, not lying for Corzine and saying Corzine's lying in congressional testimony.
We all know that Berkey water purification systems are the most...
All right, Max Keiser will be with us at the bottom of the next hour. Going back to him here in just a moment, and he's getting into the technicals of how this inner group of 6 big banks and brokerage firms can just create unlimited capital. And that's how they get away with all this. And now it came out in Reuters, Bloomberg, you name it, that the J.P. Morgan got the money. And then they just said, well, never mind that. We're not even going to say that didn't happen, but we're just going to say we don't know where it went. And then they kept saying, you'll get your money back. Now they say you're not going to get it back. And then Corzine gets up there and says, I don't know where it went. Think about that. And now the head of the CME group has come out and said, I was in the meetings, and I was told that he's the one that gave the orders. Of course he gave the orders as the CEO. Of course. I mean, this is crazy. He's the former head of Goldman Sachs. But notice it's J.P. Morgan telling the Goldman Sachs people, and I want to nail Max down on specifically the thing of you're dead if you don't do this. Now, before we go any further, if you want to support us and the InfoWar operation to get tools to wake people up, you get your order in by Sunday night, maybe even Monday morning. It's guaranteed Sunday night. You'll get it anywhere in the U.S. shipped to you before Christmas. All 18 of my films on DVD for $99.95. That's $260 off. That's a 70% discount. You can get 18 gifts with nice color packaging. You know, they're getting a nice gift, professionally, written up on the back, professionally made. It'll wake them up and say, hey, it's an action-adventure film. Watch it. But it's an action-adventure film that's reality-based. It's nonfiction, action-adventure. You'll like it. Reality is pretty exciting. So give the gift of truth, as I've said for 16 years. Now Glenn Beck is saying that. I got to start trademarking this stuff. Give the gift of truth today, ladies and gentlemen, at Infowars.com, or call 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139. And you can also get 44% off on a yearly membership right now at Prisonplanet.tv with the nightly news and everything else. Okay, Max, again, I'm going to pretty much have you unbridled in the next thing. I'm just so wound up today. Briefly, as we go to break in about 3 minutes, are you saying your sources told you that the head of Goldman, that the head of J.P. Morgan told the former head of Goldman Sachs, the head of MF Global, Corzine, you give us our money, pal, or you're going to sleep with the fishes?
Yeah. I mean, look, the timing of it during the testimony is the CME head, as you pointed out, was talking about the fact that they were quite aware of this for 3 weeks. And the point kept being made that this was not an accounting error. We searched all the accounts. It was a blatant disregard of the law where they came in and they took customer money. And they did this because Diamond put a gun to his head and said, either you do this and make us whole, or we're going to blow your fucking head off.
Hold on, Max, we can't talk like that. This is actual broadcast radio, so we had to bleep that out, okay? All right, but you're saying sources told you this.
Why can Jamie Dimon do that? Because back in the year 2000, during the passage of the Commodity Futures Modernization Act, it made all derivatives trading no longer was considered gambling. Up until then, they were considered gambling, but under that new legislation, they were no longer gambling, and it gave precedence to all derivative contracts above all securities, all cash, all banks. Whoever's wielding derivatives has the law on their side. So Diamond says, we are the derivatives wielder. Therefore, we are the law. you can just give us our money,